Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by racefortheprize.com. Let's look at the pit data from Kansas. Hopefully that can help us make some better picks at Darlington, allow us to differentiate amongst the top tier drivers, amongst our hogs and our dominators. It could be the deciding factor, the tiebreaker when you're building your lineups, and also may help you make a decision when we're looking at the value picks, comparing value versus value. We're looking at the Lemons class, the LM class, the C class, whatever you want to call it, the Nemecheks, the Haleys, the Gitlins, the LaJoys. And if you find out that, oh, wow, they have the similar practice speeds and their current form is basically the same, they're all typically running 22, 25, and you can't decide between those drivers, you could look at the pit road data to be a deciding factor. You can see the raw data in front of you if you want to get your hands on this raw data or the data that I've aggregated and calculated. RaceToThePrize.com, that's where you find information about getting access to the Fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet. Venmo, there's a PayPal, there's a Cash App. It's all below. You can always just send tips, or if you want to send some money my way, and I give you all this information so you're not scouring the internet and reading various articles and finding all this stuff and doing all the work on the internet. I do the work for you. You give me a couple bucks, I give you access to it. I take those couple bucks that you give me and I buy my son McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Demonetized for doing that probably. Okay, let's look at the information. The first thing that I want to do is look at 4 tire stops. This is the easiest step. Again, the point of doing this podcast for the die-hard DFS NASCAR community, I love that you guys are here. You guys really care. You really love this stuff. You love digging into the stats. You love digging into the races. So do I. This is a place for you. What a great community that we're building. We want to do this to help us make decisions. A lot of times when we're deciding between Larson and Hamlin or Elliott, hog versus hog, dominator versus dominator, could be the tiebreaker. Again, also, we want to look at this data, put it in our memory bank, log it in, and then we can use it to help us decide, man, LaJoy and Hocevar have very similar speeds, but who was better on pit road? Well, clearly you can see on your screen right now, Carson Hocevar at Kansas had the 3rd best average time. And just to show you with information on the screen to help you understand it, obviously you can see these are 4 tire pit stops only. We don't want to compare 4 tire versus 2 tire or no tire, apples to apples. And this is simply the easiest step in the process. There are 2 things that we can do to make determinations on who's fast in pit road. The first and the easiest way is just simply to evaluate the pit crews. And you can see stops 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Very fast, 4 sub-10-second times. On average, a 9.9 second stop, 3rd best on the day. There is that information. Very good. Could be a deciding factor this week at Darlington. Could get you those 2 spots that make the difference when we are looking at that Lemons class. Who's going to maximize finishing position? Who's going to finish at the top of that C class, that LM class? And it may not be decided on speed. It might be decided based on pit road speed. Hocevar right now, clearly, coming off the best week. Now, just to show you this middle section, what we're doing here to give you some added information. So if you were to take the 4 stops, it averages to 9.9. If we were to add them all up, how much time during the day did he spend on the pit box? It was in the box 49.3 seconds. Now you compare that to the best driver on the day, which was Chase Elliott with 48.7 seconds in the pit stop. And you get an idea of how much time he lost overall in the race. 0.6 seconds, that's fine. That's not hard to make up. But you go to some other drivers, like, oh, Ross Chastain, that's 2 seconds. 2 seconds is not the easiest thing to make up. 2 seconds is a lot, could be several spots on the racetrack. And the bigger the difference in time on your pit box versus that driver, that also is spots gained. So again, we're talking hog versus hog, value versus value. One of the takeaways here, obviously Chase Elliott's been great on pit road all season. Good pit crew. My first fear, I guess, maybe I'm overreacting to the day one. It's good. It's positive. This really helps him compete every week. This gets him spots. This puts him into the mix. But this puts him into the mix. What do I mean by that? Well, the fear or the concern, if you're looking at this from all angles, is that we know that mainly it's been the Hamlin and Larson show. Ham and cheese. Those two are running away every week, every week. It doesn't matter the track, it doesn't matter the package. Then we go to the next tier of our hogs, dominators, top 5 drivers, and Elliott's there. Elliott has been there all season. But how much of that is the speed of the number 9 Chevy Hendrick car? How much of that is influenced by the speed of his pit crew? I mean, it counts. Clearly, that's helped Hamlin a lot. And Larson's pit crew are no slouches, although they both had pretty rough days at Kansas. Not terrible, but weren't perfect. Put the drivers in kind of a bind at times. But Hamlin and even Hamlin, though some of his situations weren't necessarily because of his pit crew, it was because of the traffic around him. Maybe qualify a little bit better. You don't run into that, get a better pit stall. Either way, Hamlin, not the best damn pit road, still recovers because they're just so good. Same thing with Larson, not the best damn pit road, recovers, he's so good. But Elliott, how much is being added to it? I mean, obviously it doesn't matter. It's just going to continue. But sometimes you step back and say, maybe this car doesn't have as much speed as we think it is because it's getting a little bit of an extra boost from pit road. Anyway, Suarez had a terrible race car over the last 3 races. And, one of the ideas that I've posited is that if you go back to Texas, Zane Smith magically became fast again. Now, remember, Zane Smith is a trackhouse driver, kind of on loan, whatever, to Spire. Was absolutely doing terrible this season. Then all of a sudden, Texas, he has a good race car. And he's decent at Dover, and then put together again another good week at Kansas. It looked like as if Trackhouse said, all right, we can't make this kid look terrible anymore. He's struggling. Let's put some resources his way. And at the exact same time, Suarez has been on the decline. Although he did get a great finish at Texas, it was because of all the craziness at the end. He finished like 18 spots better than where he ran. He improved a little bit at Dover from his terrible starting position, but still was barely a top 20 car. Bad week last week. Chastain had a good start last week. Had good short run speed, but complained about fall off, getting tight on long runs in practice. Got in a dirty air in a race, and it's about a top 10 car, but not the best performance. And so we see cars that Trackhouse aren't really that great at the moment. And could this be the fact that they are now dividing the resources more evenly and adding Zane Smith to the mix and boosting Zane a little bit with more resources? Possibly has that depreciated the resources or the value of Suarez and Chastain? I don't know. Just throwing that out there. Either way, Suarez, great in pit road. Host for a good day. So what you're doing here is the simple step of saying, all right, well, what crews are fast? Hocever, Bell, Dillon, Chastain, still a fast pit crew. Bowman, solid day on pit road. Does have one little slow stop here with an 11.6, so that could have been better. But overall, pretty good for Truex, Busher, Barry, Blaney, a couple roughers. I think on a normal day where Hamlin and Larson aren't as good or don't have issues, you see these guys not really show up as high. But overall, here you can see quickly on your screen your rankings of, okay, who had a fast pit crew. That's your first step. And then you can also look at how far they fall back. We got that. Now let's do the advanced step. We're going to go a little bit more advanced. And we will look at we'll look at the big strong data. And what do I want to look at here? All right, so what I'm looking at, obviously the drivers are going to be started based on their starting position. You can see all the times they pit, what lap it was. Bell pits on lap 34, 83. You can see what was the situation. Green flag pit stop. Caution, yellow pit stop. We can see 4-tire, 2-tire. We can see when they come in, their position, when they go out. So under this green flag pit cycle, he loses a spot. And we can see under this yellow condition, he actually gains 2 spots. Why did he gain 2 spots? Well, we have to look at the data, and you could see that it was pretty quick in terms of total time. You can see the in-out time. You can see a 10.1 stop. One of the things that we really like to look at on this is our in-outs. So we'll go over here. Again, we've got drivers listed from starting position. And we're going a step further. We're not just looking at, all right, how fast was your pit crew? Now let's look at the driver's input in this situation. How did the driver maximize? Because there is the in-out time. How long, you can see over here, did it take you to get into your box? Like, oh, whoa, it took him 24.7 seconds. Yes, that's because he has the number one pit stall. It's going to take him longer to drive in. But because he has the number one pit stall, it only takes him to get 1.3 out, 36-second overall. Pretty good stop. Actually, the best stop of the day. So his in-out time on lap 83 was 26 seconds. No one had a better getting in and getting out. Now, we're not looking at how much time they spent in their stall. We're looking at what did the driver do correctly. Did he run as fast as possible into his box? Did he get out as fast as possible? Clearly, having that number one pit stall is going to help. And you can see on the day, overall, really good ranking in terms of getting in and off, which shouldn't be a surprise. You have the number one stall. And generally, what we should see is the drivers with the best pit stalls are the ones that qualified the best, had first selection. So we're going to see Ross Chastain. Good day on pit road. He maximizes in out time. And the reason why he's able to maximize in out time is because he has the best pit stall. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So again, when we look at in out time, it's going to be skewed. Drivers with better stalls that qualified well should generally have the best. And drivers starting in traffic and staying in the back with poor pit stalls are going to have a little weaker in-out times. But when we see something like Noah Gragson, who has a solid starting position, and then you look at his in-out times, and they're not quite as good, it makes you scratch your head and say, huh. Now, the reason that I would lean and why Gragson is not that great on in-out is this is kind of one of the disadvantages of being young versus old. Guys that have been doing this for years, guys that have been getting in and out of Kansas, which is notorious for speeding penalties, by the way, for years, can maximize time on, or minimize time on pit road, maximize their efforts. And it's not surprising to see, despite having a good pit stall, Gragson not really doing the best on in-out. You don't want to bury him for this. You don't want to kill him for this. But if we're trying to expect him to be in that top tier and take that next step, this does not help. This is something that is going to continue to say, well, he is never going to lead laps and run fast laps. It's just not going to happen until he cleans this up. Now, if you were to compare him against the other SHR Fords or other drivers in his category, but he has clearly demonstrated that he has more speed, that he could be in that next level. He's a top 10 driver in the last 3 races, top 20 in the last 6, trending in the right direction in terms of speed, being on the track. But for him to take the next step, he's going to have to improve that. So we're going to go to Darlington, and it's not an easy pit road, and not maximizing speed really doesn't help the case. That's something to factor in. We look at Larson. Good pit stall, good driver, and you can clearly see that when we rank all of his in-out times where he has control, he's doing his thing. Kyle Busch, in-out times, great. And we can also cross-reference over here. Now, one of the things to help Gragson out is his crew averaged a 10.3, which was the 10th best on the day. So they helped keep him in the show. Larson, on the other hand, 11.1, almost a second slower on average. He did his thing. They kind of let him down. And what we can do is go over and look at these 4-tire stops. And I kind of alluded to this earlier. I probably should have went down. And, you don't want to overreact to average, because if you look at 4 of his stops, 10, 10-2, 9-8, 10-2, that's fine. He had this 15-4. But being Kyle Larson, he dug himself out. Hamlin, his crew wasn't really that great. 9.5, 10.6, 10.5, 11.0. Now, I don't know how much of that. Look, he lost 3.7 seconds on pit road. Stenhouse lost 7.6 seconds. Still ends up, finishing around top 15. Not bad for the day. But one bad pit stop really can hurt you. So you got to be careful looking at average. But we go back to where we were. Larson, good day, checking all the boxes. Kyle Busch, pit crew probably could have been a little bit faster. They were pretty good on their last 3 stops, just didn't nail every single one of them. It's possible if you pull up Busch and find out that he had just 1 bad stop. We'll see. 10.8 to start out. Overall, really not their best day. Could have been better. But he has been awesome getting in and off the pit road. Having a good pit stall probably definitely helps as well. Again, young drivers not maximizing or minimizing time getting in and out. Good pit crew, not the best on the day for Ty Gibbs, but this could have been better. Austin Cindric, decent, very fast pit crew. And he's had a very fast pit crew a couple of times. So when we're looking in that Lemons class, that C class, if Cindric's in comparison on a given week to LaJoy and those guys, I know he's kind of borderline of where he falls in the mix, but his pit crew definitely is an advantage for him. McDowell, not really getting in. And I wonder if sometimes maybe his road course background has helped him with pit stops. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much. McDowell, not a good day overall. Chase Elliott, fast pit crew. Pretty good getting him in and out here. Not the super best stall. Briscoe, Logano. This is just a weird blip. Sometimes the NASCAR data comes in crazy. There's so many different things. This is just their weird feed. But overall, good pit stops here. Very good getting in and off of pit road. If Logano comes in at a discount and we get the place differential, there is the possibility that like this pit crew can just keep him in the show. Buescher okay overall. Checks kind of both boxes. Not super great, but okay. Fast pit crew, good enough. Martin Truex Jr., 9th on average with the 4-tire, and having some very solid numbers getting in and out. Denny Hamlin, as we can see, really what killed him wasn't necessarily his pit crew, although they could have been faster, but it was these in-out times where he got caught in traffic, and he still was able to recover. That's impressive. Reddick, a couple bad in-outs. That's not going to help, but that's been a situation with this team. Overall, his pit crew did their job. Reddick's got to tidy that up a little bit. Dylan sneaky in that his pit crew is always really good, and he wasn't too bad on in-out. And if we are comparing him, if he's under that 7K range, he's in that Lemons class, and we're trying to decide whether to pick him. It was tough last week because he was starting so close to the front, but if we can get him starting further back, this is definitely one of the deciding factors, tiebreakers. Say, all right, well, Dylan may not have the best car, but if we compare him to the Lemons, he's right there. And then we throw in the added advantage of having a very solid pit crew and him being pretty good at getting in and out. That's something that we can definitely consider. Barry, more inexperienced driver, not surprised to see him not have the greatest times here, but his crew did a pretty good job. Bowman, kind of mixed results, getting in and out, but his pit crew did their job. Not surprised to see Jimmy Johnson and a tertiary part-time team not be very fast, and also he not be as aggressive and sharp on pit road. Very good day for Heim. That is interesting. And a very good job from the Legacy Motor Club, and I think they've been pretty good this season. Stenhouse, that is a concern. So when we look at Stenhouse, we like the speed that they have shown over the last 3 races when they are not running into incidents. But Stenhouse is not doing himself any favors. His pit crew's not doing himself any favors. And so when we are making that decision between the Lemons class and deciding who can maximize finishing position, this would be a possible downgrade. Upgrade on this end from the crew for Hocevar, but he almost negates that because, again, young, inexperienced drivers, not really the best at getting in and off the pit road. So you got to look at both these data points. Bubba Wallace, aggressive driver, pretty good at getting in and out of pit road. Pit crew on average, not great, but let's look at the specific stops, see if there's one, because again, he had issues. He got into a wreck, and so he's probably got a couple numbers where, 23.9, obviously that hurts, but even before that, 12.3 at the very beginning of the race, that's not good. Could have been a better day. That's why you got to look at all the specific stops to really get an idea. Go back down, Zane Smith. Again, young driver, You don't expect him to have the best, like, right, 170, 174. This stop on lap 116 was the 217th ranked stop in terms of getting in and out of pit road. Again, though, not only is age going to matter, but as we go further towards the back, the pit stalls become worse. And as the pit stalls become worse, you're in more traffic, and getting in and out of pit road becomes just slower. So you have to add that as well. You wouldn't say, oh, he's terrible on pit road. Well, he could be, and he's not the best, but we do have to give him the benefit of the doubt that he probably suffered a little bit from being in the back. Gilly, not a very fast pit crew. Young driver, not the best pit stall. Blaney, look at these numbers. Very good getting into pit road. Very fast pit crew. Didn't have a good stall, right? It's qualified toward the back. This definitely had, like we mentioned with Joey Logano, how he could be a considerable play. Although the Fords have lacked speed, they could be in the picture in DFS because of the pit crew. And here is Ryan Blaney, probably had a 15th place car, maybe pushing 10th last week at Kansas. But that pit crew definitely helped keep him in the show, kept him in the game. And that's going to be the case at Darlington. Probably not his best track. Probably going to be around 8th to 10th place driver. But if he can avoid all the carnage and chaos in this race, that pit crew can definitely help him be right there at the top 5, and may not necessarily be the best car on the day, but have the opportunity to have track position and scrape some fast laps. Suarez, pretty good at getting in and out, despite a poor starting position, poor pit stall, very fast on the day, and it really didn't help him at all. That's how slow that car was. LaJoy, probably hurt because of damage and wreck, so you can't really look into that. Nemechek, again, young driver, not a good pit stall. Pit crew, you probably wouldn't think the secondary legacy club is going to be that fast anyway. Brett Keselowski, bad pit stall. That's disappointing. Not a very fast pit crew on the day. But for him to work his way through traffic, that kind of illustrates how much speed that the RFK cars had. He didn't really get any boost on pit road. And yet he worked his way and almost got into the top 10. That's impressive. And I don't think we need to go any further on that. And we'll go a little bit more just because I love doing this. One of the things that we can do if you have access to Fantasy NASCAR Spreadsheet is just sort some of this stuff. And so let's just say, let's only look at the 4 tire stops. So get rid of 2s, get rid of the no's, 4 tire stops. And what was some of the biggest gains? Now, again, here's that weird NASCAR blip. You just got to ignore it. The data came in strange. But the biggest gain on pit road during the day was 5 spots. And they're like, what? No, I was watching the race, and I saw someone get 8 spots one time. That's because that driver took 2 tires versus 4 tires. We don't want to compare apples to oranges. We want to compare apples to apples. So if we only look at 4 tire stops, Logano's gain of 5, Austin Dillon's gain of 5, Josh Berry's gain of 5, best on the day. Logano went from 21st to 16th. Those are huge gains. On lap 168. Dillon, 4 on 1 lap 68. And so you can take this data, do whatever you want with it, play around with it. I'm sure you can have some fun. Ultimately, it doesn't help Logano. He finishes 34th because he gets in a wreck. Ultimately, having this great pit stop doesn't really help Austin Dillon. He finishes 25th. Look, he got 5 free spots. He was gifted on lap 168, position 17. He still finishes 25th. His pit crew was 6th fastest on the day. That tells you, my takeaway, heading into Darlington, that car has some problems. Josh Berry finishes 15th, 12th fastest pit crew on the day, gets those 5 spots there, 28th to 23rd, really keeps him in the picture on lap 168. So that's impressive. That's something positive. Same thing with Hocevar getting 4 spots, 19 to 15, ultimately fades out because they pit at the end of right before the caution comes out in stage 3. So he was much better than where he finished. So you can do whatever you want with that data. I'm sure you would love to have this data. And a lot of you do because you have subscribed. $25. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Big month of racing. Tons of races. Tons of information to go through. Like, go find it on your own and do it on your own, or just have the sheet and then I make it easy for you. Save you a ton of time. It's a very useful tool. Gives you a little bit of an edge. Gives you a little bit more insight, an advantage. I think you'll like it. Other people like it. Like, subscribe, share. Blessed to have you coming back, especially you guys that are diehards watching a pit stop video. Hey, thank you. Love you. Trip to Life Fantastic.